Welcome to the MMA Fan Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Stu and Blake.
Hello and welcome to the MMA Fan Podcast. Today we have with us the undefeated Cage Warriors bantamweight champion of the world, Caolan Loughran. Caolan, the first big question for us is, as idiot Englishmen, exactly how do we pronounce it? Is it Caolan or Caolan? Like, what is it?
That's not bad, Caolan. If you think of the word, kale, the food, Kale.
Yes.
I-N. Caolan. You get me?
Caolan.
You was right, Blake.
Yeah.
You was right, Blake.
Yes. Although I think I just said Caolan, but I think Stu got to me when we were chatting before, and I was like, I think it's Caolan, and he was like, no, I'm pretty sure it's Caolan. I was like, no. So we had a bit of a back and forth about that, but I win. Although Stu got in my head, he was in my head rent free.
I live in Liverpool, and I'm trained in Liverpool, so see going to Starbucks and trying to explain your name, unbelievable, unbelievable. And then
I think I've seen.
They're like, what the fuck?
I think I've seen like an Instagram meme or like some kind of like comedy sketch where these three Irish people go into Starbucks or wherever Costa Coffee, whatever it is, and they just have so many different Irish names that people like no idea how to spell it, no idea how to do.
I just say Don now.
Yeah, that's it. You should just say the Don. Yeah, that's it. But I remember I worked in a call center for a little bit, and it was quite embarrassing because the whole thing was you had to cold call businesses to make sure that people and managers were all in the same positions they were in a little while ago or something. Really boring. And I phoned up someone, and it was in the middle of there's like 10 people around me, and I was on Michael going, "Hey, is Siaban there? Siaban? It's Siaban?" And they had no idea who I was talking about. And then collectively about 8 people.
Are you joking me, Blake? Siaban.
I was like, Siaban.
BHV.
I know. I was about 22 years old, and I had not just I didn't know. And I was just Siaban. They were like, who the fuck is Siaban?
BH. I don't blame you for that one, lad.
Good.
Love it. Well, look, Caolan, we always start this podcast when guests come on for the first time by kind of going back, and we want to ask you to just give us a little bit of a background as to where you grew up and how you fell into combat sports, and was that something that come as a necessity? Did you have to be able to look after yourself where you grew up, and if so, was you sort of comfortable with conflict at a young age? I've loaded that question quite heavily there, but just give us a bit of background, really, mate.
I grew up from a very rural part of Ireland. Beckmore in County Tyrone, so it was about an hour and a half outside of Belfast, up the mountain, like literally middle of nowhere. But there's no MMA there, really. Basically, absolutely none. But boxing would be quite heavy. And there's a sport called Gaelic football. I don't know if you watch it. That's a sport where basically everyone would play from that region. You would play soccer, Gaelic, maybe a bit of boxing, but predominantly Gaelic football. So I was just like every other kid, just kicking a ball about, playing that. And in the off seasons, I done boxing to stay fit for football. So that was my starting in the martial arts. Was boxing was my first form of combat sports. But I only really done on the side of Gaelic football until I started getting some pretty heavy knee injuries. I tore my ACL as a teenager in my mid-teens, and that was obviously shit for anyone. Does ACL is a shit injury. Came back, tore it again, and I was like, oh my god, fuck this. So in a few months into my rehab program, I went down to a local MMA gym, very small, only on 2 nights a week. And I was about 16 this stage, and I obviously had the background in boxing, but I think within about 20 minutes of one MMA session, I was pretty sure this was going to do for the rest of my life. And I never went back to football, never just took up MMA basically full time immediately.
And in terms of mentally and stuff, were you someone that when you were a kid, if there was something kicking off, if you had someone that was potentially trying to bully you, anything like that, were you quite comfortable in confrontational situations, or did you have to learn that?
No, I had no problem there. I was the smallest kid in my school, secondary school, until I think fourth year. Someone lined up with me. I was like literally 4'2". I was so small. So people would always think they could pick on you, but I was never bullied or anything like that. There, I always hear people these sob stories and these fighters. I was not bullied by any stretch of the imagination. People will try to pick on you, of course, because the smallest kid in the school, but nah, no problem with the scrap lad. Never have, never will either.
You said that within like sort of 20 minutes of being in that MMA gym, you know, that you realise that this is something that you was, you know, you wanted to do, and I presume felt like, you know, this could be my destiny here. How easy, if at all, did it come to you? Because you get a lot of people that are naturally gifted at sports, and like and the instant, you know, you see it in gyms. Some people come in and like, and they struggle to throw a kick, whereas you'll see someone come in and throw a perfect kick within 3 lessons. Like, you know, how easy did it come to you?
Honestly, it did come quite the grappling. Even very quickly, I was tapping guys with years of experience. I was quite an athletic kid. I even to be honest, like when Caolan shows me the technique now, I usually get them pretty quick. I just get like enthralled by it. I just love the thought of like getting a new, and then some becomes a game. Then trying to hit the new technique on someone, like a new jiu-jitsu move, a new wrestling takedown, whatever it is. So very quickly, I got onto it. But I think it was more because I just thought about it more than people. I was a wee bit more obsessed with it than everyone else. Like I would leave the gym and the technique stuff would be going through my head all night. Like I'd never ever switch off. And this has been that's 10 years. Like still, I'll never switch off. So I think it did definitely come quick. I was tapping people with years experience over me pretty early on, but I think it's more obsession than anything is what the way I get these things, get these techniques. You get me?
Is that go on,
sorry,
Stu.
Blake. Had you had amateur boxing matches before you?
No, just a good few years of training, but no actual fights. No.
Right. Okay. Sorry, Blake. What was you going to say, mate?
No. It's just how important do you think it is to be obsessive about the sport? Because you mentioned being kind of obsessive about it, and we've heard from some of the greats that, you know, they're obsessed with it to the point, you know, they don't switch off. They go home, they watch fights and all this kind of stuff. Do you think that's important? Like, do you switch off much outside of MMA? Do you do other things, or do you just like, this is it? Even when you're at home relaxing, you're watching fights, so you're thinking about techniques and stuff.
I can only speak to me personally, but I do think it's important. Honestly, I don't switch off. My relaxation from MMA is watching MMA. Like if like I never miss a fight. I watch every fight. All my competitors, any fighter I'm intrigued by, I'll watch his training vlogs. I'll watch interviews. I've got a woman, like, she'll try to put on a TV show, and after about 20 minutes, I always want to switch it back to MMA. I get so bored with anything that isn't MMA. So I can only speak personally, but I think that obsession is key for whatever you do, whatever your craft is. But I love MMA so much I get sick of MMA, and then I go back to watching MMA, so I don't even know what to do. Obsessed with that.
Well, I mean, we'll have to get you on for our. We sometimes do like preview shows for big cards and stuff like that. We'll get you on for one at a time, and we'll get your expert opinion, because otherwise people are just listening to me and Stu chat absolute shit, because none of us know what we're talking about. We're just guessing all the time, really. So it'd be nice to have someone on that knows what they're talking about at some point. But why the Don? Why are you nicknamed the Don?
I was watching Narcos one time, my mate, and we call him Don Pablo, and I go, Don, and I just stuck. I had no choice then. But it actually works all right, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
It's a great name. So it's literally you were just watching Narcos and you were Don Pablo, and what did someone then call you?
The boy I was with, he goes, the Don, I goes, the Don, I was fighting, he goes, you call us Don? I was like, no, and then it just started sticking, and I was like, it actually sounds all right, and then just went with the name, lad, and then...
That's great. I love Narcos as well. So, Narcos is a great show.
Well, tell us a little bit about your first scrap, like when you first had an MMA bout, and talk us through just the anticipation and the mindset that you went in there with. Was there nerves? How do you cope with the nerves? Talk us a little bit sort of through that first ever fight.
Honestly, I wasn't nervous. I'd say I had been doing boxing for a lot of training, and then I had been doing MMA for a good few years. So I was quite experienced by the time I got into an MMA cage, you know what I mean? I wasn't nervous, lad. I still, to this day, I don't really get nervous. I genuinely enjoy it, and the more hype behind the fight, the more you talk, and the more like eyes that are on you, just enjoy it more. It never really fazed me. I don't. I genuinely people think I'm lying. I genuinely don't get nervous. I literally love it. I don't actually think to myself like, well, I don't know what to do without it now. Like I love like kind of in limbo at the minute without fights. And I'm almost like not lost, but like I want to know when I'm fighting again soon. You know what I mean? But no, lad, I love it. I absolutely love it. I love competition. I love MMA competition more than anything. There's a buzz you just can't replace.
So, I mean, I think I know what the answer to this is going to be because of how you answered that question. But is there any additional pressure to being undefeated? Because I remember, I think when Jack Shaw lost to Ricky Simone a little while back, he was like, what kind of, there was a bit of a weight off my shoulders a little bit. Do you have any of that going on?
No, lad, you know the truth. I lost 2 times in the amateurs, and I've never bought into this, me being undefeated, because I know what it feels like to lose in MMA. I get that I'm undefeated in professional MMA, but I'd never really, even before one of my fights, Cage Wars was trying to do, like one of the wee promos trying to talk with your undefeated fighter, and I said, I'm not undefeated in MMA. Like, I know what it feels like to lose. I know the importance of defeat in this game. I know that nobody gets out of this game. I know Khabib, maybe John Jones, was very, very rare. I actually heard one time Dominic Cruz kind of criticizing Khabib. He says anyone that leaves this game undefeated didn't truly test themselves. They didn't go up in weight classes, didn't try new limits. So I don't buy into being undefeated. I'm a very confident fighter, but I don't expect to retire undefeated as a pro. Now that doesn't mean I'm going to look any bantamweight in the world and say he's the guy to beat me, because I would never say that. But somebody eventually is probably going to get you. So no, it's absolutely no pressure being undefeated. It's part and parcel with not just our sport, every sport. Everybody's going to have a bad day, but no, I don't get nervous because I don't fear losing. To be honest, I don't fear.
And so, how did you go from you're up in the mountains of Ireland playing Gaelic football? How do you go from there to Liverpool and Team Caolan?
Well, I say the gym I was in was only 2 nights a week, but I was training 2 times a day. By the time I was 18, I had a license and I was driving to Belfast, Tyrone, Dublin, everywhere I could get. I literally, one of the last weeks stuck in my mind. I clocked up like 880 miles.
Wow.
Train twice a day. In a week, I'd clocked up like 800 something miles, and it was just racking me. There was no time to recover. When you were recovering, you were driving, and then that time you're not actually recovering. Like, you just get between sessions. The early mornings here was really, really getting me. So I was like, I need a place to fucking where it's all under one roof. Round about that time, Ali McLean, the guy from Belfast, fighting Team Caolan, messaged me. I'd actually just lost an amateur, and he messaged me saying he'd love to have me over for some training. I was scheduled to fight in Belfast, so I kind of have this fight and stuff. But then that week I'd done 800 something miles. I was like, fuck this, I need somewhere where I can just get this back. So I messaged him back. I had a fight. This was in like I think it was the 21st of December. And 2018, and I had a fight for February, the start of February, and I tell him I'll be in the Monday after. I was a bit bruised, so I went the Tuesday after, but after that fight in the February, I went straight to Caolan and never looked back. The gym speaks for itself. We've got more UFC fighters than we have 10 fighters. We've competed for a UFC title. Colin's record, it's proven. So no, sometimes you just find fighter, coach, gym relationship, it just clicks, and I find one that just clicks for me, you know what I mean? So that's how I end up there. Ali messaged me first. I went and tried it, and very quickly, after a few wrestling rounds with Mike Grundy and these guys, I very quickly realized that I am not of the level that I think I am, and either I go back to where I was, go back to being the big man in your hometown where everybody knows you and maybe it's going well for you, or you can go out of your comfort zone, go sleep in the gym here, get absolutely fucked up by all these UFC guys, but chase your dream. So I chose the latter, do you know what I mean?
Amazing.
I mean, you're in sort of Liverpool now, which is as you just said, that gym alone, it's stacked with killers, and Liverpool, over at Next Gen as well, has got some absolute, killers as well. Liverpool's where it's happening.
Yeah.
But let's talk a little bit about Irish MMA and talk about in the wake of Conor Mania, a fair few years ago now. Tell me about the impact that you felt that had on young lads in Ireland that were interested in MMA.
Yeah, well, it was always going to take about 10 years for it to click. Like McGregor in the UFC, and then he got a couple of guys in behind him. They were getting MMA quite late. We were lucky to be in this game from teenagers. McGregor got signed just over 10 years ago now, and of course, worldwide, he was a superstar. But can you imagine what he was like in schools in Ireland? He was all everybody was talking about was these fights. So naturally, then a lot of teenagers and young lads went into MMA gyms, myself included, Paul Hughes included, Reece McKee included. And now 10 years on, we're all starting to break through. It was always going to, Ian Gary obviously included, it was obviously going to take a while for them young lads to come through, and now they have. It's of course testament to what Conor McGregor done. This goes out saying, if you have like any sport, like I'm sure at the time Brian O'Driscoll inspired a lot of young rugby players come through in Ireland. It's only natural, but it's taken its time. But now I think it really is about to go off. But not just one guy. I think it's going to be a good few people competing at a high level in the UFC very soon. You know what I mean?
Well, absolutely. I mean, as you said, you've got 3 current Cage Warriors champions, including yourself, Reece McKee, Paul Hughes, and then you've got people in Bellator like Liam McCourt, Sinead Kavanagh as well, and Ian Gary smashing it in the UFC at the moment. He's really doing well very, very quickly, it seems, Ian Gary. So it's an amazing thing. It feels like Irish MMA is almost... Obviously, it's not got the star power that Conor had just as one man, but in terms of like multiple fighters all coming through at the same time, it feels like a great moment for Irish MMA.
Yeah, until I get there, then we'll have a real star.
Well, let's talk about that, because I mean we're unsure as to where the land lies with Paul Hughes at the moment in regards to, is he going to the UFC at the moment? Is he going to be fighting in Cage Warriors again? And I guess that's for Paul to answer. But obviously, we've seen a few fighters like George Hardwick, and we spoke to George in the week, who is one of the funniest people I think I've ever met, and just an absolute killer.
Great fighter.
But if you look at his record and defenses, and then we asked him, we felt that you should have just got a contract like Ian Gary, who didn't even defend his belt. He just got the contract and he was into the UFC, whereas George is now on the contender season, as well as Oban. In an ideal world, would you want to, defend a few times, and then would you want the contract? I guess that's the goal ultimately. But what would you feel if you got offered the contender series? Would you take that?
I don't know. I would.
You've got a little grin on your face there, and it makes me think something's already happened. What's going on?
No. I tell you this. I just don't.
I don't believe you. I don't believe a word you're saying. What's happened? Have you been given a contender series thing or a contract?
George Hardwick being in the contender series, I think it's absolutely mad. Like 3 years ago, he would not have needed to do that. Like it's kind of saying, like him and Oban Ali. Like I like Oban, good guy. Teresa Sarila, he's all right. Like, but George Hardwick is essentially in the same position as him when he's been absolutely killing it in Cage Warriors. Like, he, in my opinion, should be in the UFC, no question. Absolutely no question. So it's kind of make me think now, if I go defend the belt, do you go back? Do you still in like contender series? Is that where it's going to be? If I defended 3 times, am I just going to be contenders? I know I'm getting a bit of hype and stuff, but I don't know. What I do the contender series, I don't know. Maybe see what happens. But I want to get straight into the UFC. That's the reason I came to Cage Warriors in the first place. I had an offer from PFL at the start of this year for a lot of money, and I don't have fucking any money at the minute. I got offered a lot of money to PFL. Turned it down. I had an offer from promotion Combate Global for like $100K tournament. Turned it down. The PFL offers more money, and I'd have more money on the table for the PFL, and turned them down for really not a lot of money for Cage Warriors, because this is the way it's been for 10 years plus. I look back to Nathaniel Wood coming up. I used to look up that guy. But I remember him in Cage Warriors. I love watching him. I used to love watching Jack Shore come up. I watched all these guys. I used to love everything about Cage Warriors. Always thought to myself, I want to be a Cage Warriors champion. Because Cage Warriors champions get in the UFC. So ideally, see what happens. hopefully, please God, I get in. If not, there's a Dublin show there. It's very far away and stuff. There's plenty of Cage Warriors titles, or plenty of Cage Warriors guys there to fight. But no, I want to fight in the UFC right now. To be honest, right now.
There's two questions I want to ask you, Caolan, off the back of that. Is that Caolan? Sorry, off the back of that is one. Why is the UFC? Why does it mean so much more? Because as you say, you've been offered good money from the PFL. I mean, you reckon 100K or something like that from Combate Global. Like, but why is it? Because the UFC, let's be honest, if you go Dana White Contender Series route, you're probably on 10 and you're on 10 and 10, something like that, maybe 10 and 10. And if someone's offering you 6 figures or a high 5-figure sum to go to the PFL, Combate, wherever it is, why is it that the UFC has that much sway over young fighters?
It's just been my dream, lad. It's just literally the only thing that's through my head every day. Every day, for the last 10, 12 years, I've wanted to be a UFC fighter. I get into MMA before I knew what Bellator was, before I knew the PFL was. It was always the UFC. It was the UFC champion, the top of the UFC, the pinnacle. The first time I watched MMA was when Brock Lesnar was coming. I was only a kid. I was a big fucking WWE fan, and Brock Lesnar was coming in, and I was telling my dad, "This guy is the man. He is going to kill everybody because he was fucking WWE champion." So my head at the time was the main thing. He goes into the UFC. Is like this. That was just always the goal of the UFC. So money is of course important. You need to make money, but no, if I fight in the UFC, I'll die a happy man, regardless of what's in the bank, you know.
I hear what you say about money in the UFC.
What's right?
I hear what you say about that. You know, that there might not be the money initially, and until you scale up. But do you think the UFC is the place to create legacy?
1,000,000%, no question whatsoever, no question. That's what the greats are. People talking about Pitbull over in Bellator and stuff now, because he's going for a third belt and stuff. But for me, it's not like it's you have to go into the UFC and beat guys at that level to go down in them conversations. It's absolutely UFC. But sure, here if you sell tickets, you're gonna make a lot of money in the UFC too. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's true. I mean, on the subject of money, are you someone that has a job to supplement your fighting at the moment? I mean, it's so mad that we hear about fighters now that are doing well in either Cage Warriors or other regional promotions, and they are still, that they're having to work. I think I heard Oban Elliott recently saying was working on the railroads. But it's crazy. So do you have a job that supplements your fighting, or are you able to be a full-time fighter? Do you coach? Like, how do you pay the bills effectively?
Well, I am now. I've a good sponsor. I'm a full-time fighter. I take the occasional shift in an Irish bar down the road from here in Liverpool, but I am essentially a full-time fighter. They all Saturday to work, but that's it really. Thank God. Good sponsor.
Have you done anything leading up to this moment where you've had like a bit of a crazy job or a job you hated or anything like that, just to try and fund you doing the fighting?
Before when I lived in Ireland, I was shooting full time. Yeah, I started working full time. Then I came here. I was again just picking up. I was doing a lot of when I first moved here. I slept in the gym for 10 months. I slept in the gym in a wee box at the back. You don't see it. It was insane. Me and this Brazilian boy slumming it for 10 months. No TV, no window. This wee room, this wee box is insane. But then I was PTing as much as I could, and I was doing more shifts at the weekend in like clubs and stuff to train, because the morning sessions in Cowbones where it's at, you have to be there. If I wasn't going to be there, I wouldn't be in Liverpool, away from friends and family. So now you just have to really, people come into this, like young lads get into this sport, like you have to really make sure you want to do it, like, because it's not Conor McGregor rocking up in yachts. Trust me, it's not that. It's a long time before you get. I've been doing this for nearly 11 years now, every day morning, like 2-3 sessions a day. And I have nowhere near even remotely close to broke even. Like, it'll still cost every penny I've ever had. So if you want to do it, make sure that you fucking are obsessive, because it takes a long time for it to be. I'm not even gonna say good, because like life, I have to train twice a day to chase this dream, is living the dream for me already. Like, but it's financially, it's definitely tough.
Aside from the obvious fighters, obviously being Irish and Conor McGregor, what fighters were inspirational to you? Who were the fighters that were, you actually mentioned Nathaniel Wood earlier as well, but who were the other fighters that you was watching on the TV that you was aspiring to be like?
My first ever Floyd was when I was a kid. Floyd was my favorite, just because he was so flashy and I just love guys who talk a lot of shit and stuff. I love Chael Sonnen too. My favorite fighter of all time actually doesn't talk. Actually, is Triple G, the boxer. He actually doesn't talk in this shit. I just love his mentality, his punching technique, love his style. But lad, there's just so many. Like I'll wake up someday and I want to be a grappler. I'll wake up next day I want to be a striker, and then I'll just study. I don't know, Islam, Makachev, Khabib, and then the next day I'll study Wonderboy. I just love the game, lad. And then if the fighters can talk shit and like back it up and bring attention to themselves, then I get immediately. I'm a fan as much as I'm a fighter. You know what I mean? So it's honestly too much to mention. But my favorite fighter of all time is Triple G. Just that the guy's mentality. It's just a killer. It's
Absolutely.
a killer. Yeah.
And let's talk about that win where you won the Cage Warriors belt in Rome. How?
Yeah.
And you were fighting an Italian guy. You were fighting Dylan Hazan. What?
Yeah.
He was also undefeated.
Yeah.
How much did you gain from that experience to go into enemy territory against a fellow undefeated guy? I know you don't always see undefeated like that, but for the purposes of this, he's undefeated. You're going to enemy territory and you win the belt in front of that crowd that were all pro him, other than obviously quite a large Irish contingent that you brought with you, I think. But how was that, and how much have you taken from that moment?
It's priceless. These experiences, like they're just you gain so much. You gain so much in the preparation for them. You gain so much backstage, the walkout, and when there's literally I couldn't even see the cage because literally about 500 Italians lined up to meet me as I walked along the ramp to boo me and give me the finger the whole way up as I'm walking on the cage. And I'm just literally watching back. I'm literally smiling and laughing at them. Like, I thought this was class. I was in there and I literally was in the cage and I was like waiting for Dylan to come in. I was looking at, I sold like 80 tickets in Rome, which is pretty good considering there's half across Europe. See, they're literally in front of me. It's about 1,500, 2,000 Italians behind me. And I just always just hear this buzz. And I'm just looking around saying, what the fuck is going on? This is nuts. Get in the cage. And like, again, I'm very relaxed all day. I've had a lot of fights now. I was quite relaxed. For some reason, even though I was relaxed, I found myself 3 minutes into the fight in the middle of a scrap and just talking to myself, what are you doing, kid? You're not even thinking here. You're not even just fucking, you're not even picking shots. You're just fucking having a straightener, basically. So it just took me 3.5 minutes just to calm right. Jesus Christ, calm down. Then I got on to start looking at him. He's picking out his jab quickly, taking his jab back to his chest, picking the jab out, hitting me with the jab clean, but taking it back to his chest. And then it was like, even just to have that, to stop, to think, to be relaxed, the way you would see like a Canelo, and to think in that high pressure moment, to see the shots. Then whenever he took out a jab one time, over the top and clocked him. Like that experience of like to see that shot in that moment, you can't replicate that in the gym. That just comes from fighting and that type of atmosphere around you. It's literally priceless, and I fucking love it. I fucking love it.
It was a great fight as well. It was a phenomenal fight. Have you been able to watch it back at all? Have you watched it back?
So I actually literally watched it all day once, but so I'll like watch it for like a week to 10 days, literally maybe 100 times. Find out what I've done wrong. Start to work on them things in the gym. This is now 2 months ago. Started working on things in the gym. And then whenever I started improving, things went wrong in the gym. I can't walk. I almost like get like OCD. Like start twitching almost. I'm doing what I've done wrong, so I can't watch it now. No, definitely now. But in the first week, I watched it a lot of times.
Did you notice? I think that's brilliant. I've not heard that before about fighters. Almost like, again, the only parallels I have to compare what you just said to is like acting, when you you do something and you're on screen and then all of a sudden you have to watch it and you're like, oh, that was a terrible choice. What's my face doing that? Oh, that's horrible. Oh, I can't watch it. And stuff like that. But and I've never heard that from a fighter before, and I'm interested in that. But the reason I asked this question was because, did you hear the screaming at the end of the fight?
What's right? Like
at the end of your fight with Dylan Hazan, and you won. Did you hear the screaming?
Well, like the crowd.
Well, specifically a female scream.
I don't know, lad. No, I can't think.
So here's the thing. I was watching it earlier today before obviously interviewing you, And after your win, all you can hear is this incredibly high pitch, clearly female scream of yes, yes. And then the camera cuts to two people. I think it was your mum and maybe either a sister or partner. I'm not sure. I don't know. But I was like, is that because my wife was in the other room and she was like, what are you watching? Thinking I was watching a horror film. Because God. She just, the screaming was so horrific and high pitched.
I must rewatch that. I would say it was my mom and my sister, definitely.
Please rewatch it and confirm to me. Send me a message if it's your mum, because if you just listen to it at the end, you can hear over the top of any other sound is this high-pitched woman scream like she's being murdered. But I think you can also hear that she's shouting yes. So there you go.
Very good. Oh, I've been there myself. When you watch someone you know fighting and they win, you just lose their shit. My brother just fought the weekend. It's hard to control yourself.
Oh, your brother's a fighter as well?
Yeah. He's won a title there with Ireland.
Oh, amazing. Is he younger than you?
Yeah, he just turned 22 the other day. He's fighting for another title now. He's going very well, actually. Going well. Trains with Paul Hughes, same gym.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Do you ever kind of like train together or spar each other, or is he over in Ireland so you don't really get the chance to do that?
He was over here in Liverpool over COVID and stuff, but he's way back to Ireland. Train together all the time.
One of the fun things we like to ask fighters is obviously sort of post-weight cut, post-fight, you get the win, you go home with the belt. How do you, the celebrations, I mean, tell us how you celebrated the night you won the belt, but more importantly, what is your go-to thing that you eat as soon as you can?
Well, the go-to thing I'd go to would be Guinness before I get a fucking feed.
Lovely.
I did see the mug, yeah.
That would be my go-to thing. How to celebrate? Oh, Jesus, lad, tuck it in. I laugh, people talk about Jack Grealish doing a 4-day bender like he's nuts. I went on a 14-day bender. But it was it was a special time because I was there. I was all my friends came over and we were in Rome for like the Tuesday after. So we had a couple of days and my family and stuff. It was really just the best experience of my life. But no, I took it in, lad. But I say, trying to hopefully get moving on now.
So one of the most difficult things, it seems, about being an athlete, a mixed martial artist, is the weight cuts. How do you have anything that you do kind of mentally to get, because that's got to be the worst, but you seem like someone that would be excited about the fight, but the weight cut, how difficult is that? And mentally, what do you have as your kind of coping mechanisms to deal with the difficulties of the weight cut?
It's you just have to keep it positive. You just have to be positive outlook on saying this is what we're doing today. Fuck it, I've got 6 kilos to lose today. I cut an exponential amount of weight. I'm very heavy for a bantamweight. Right now I'm 77 kilos, like, with no fight. That's a long way from 61. Like, and I'm not fat, I'm lean, I'm strong at the weight, but it's just about remaining positive, saying this is listen, Alexander Volkanovski, he's one of my favorite fighters right now. His mentality towards anything. He says he walks around Vegas and sees these fighters feeling sorry for himself and moping on fight week. Is like, this is part of living the dreams. Very much like, if you want to have the good nights and Saturday night, you have to do this. So it's just literally a part of the job. Suck it up, get it done, and then fucking weigh in. Simple as that. Don't be a soft cunt, basically.
And once that weigh-in's done and you get the face-off, I'm always interested to ask fighters about that face-off. Do you get anything from that? When you get fighters say, I'm looking straight into their soul, like, do you subscribe to that? What do you take from a stare down?
It very much depends on the individual. For me, like, the last time Dylan, he just hated me so much. I walked in, like, I literally walked into the weigh-ins and he started going like, serious and says, like, what the fuck? And I was like, and he couldn't handle it at all. He was so hyped up. And then I seen him, like, backstage, like, because it's obviously, we were like literally a curtain between me and the cage, and I seen him. He's run the toilet maybe fucking 25 times in the space of 2 hours. Literally run the toilet, run past me. Then I had to give him hand wraps. He comes sprinting up the hall past me, and I was like, this guy just cannot handle this at all. This is just too much for him. I knew that after 6, 7 minutes, he was going to come out strong. I knew that. I could tell. It's like, all I have to do is weather the storm, and he is going to hit a massive adrenaline dump. But every individual different. I just I sometimes I something like in case of Dylan, like I do obviously talk about, but like I was smiling at him and he was just flipped. He's flipped. So it's very much the individual, but I love riling up my guys. I love it so much. I love it.
Well, yeah, you got under Luke Shank's skin a little bit as well. I think
He hated me, dude. He hated me. I don't even talk that much. Just I think sometimes just when you smile at these guys, it's just fucking. They're so emotionally wound up. I don't know. You can't bring emotion into these fights. If you do, you're gone. You'll never beat the top guys ever.
Well, you said that you watch all the fights, you're obsessed with it. So we want to get your take on Aljamain Sterling versus Sean O'Malley. What do you think about that fight? How do you see that going?
I think I'd beat Sean O'Malley right now. So I have to be 100% honest. I actually think his power is overrated. That's the truth. I think his power is overrated. Purian is at a time when a prime Puri, he's one of my favorite fighters. He's a lot of skill, but he was fit to get Aljo down. And one thing he's not good at, Purian, is offensive jiu-jitsu. His understanding hip stuff is not very good, but he's fit to hit positions on Sean O'Malley that if, and I think when Sterling hits them, his thing could cut through his guard, mount him, take his back, flat him out. I think it cut through him like a fucking chainsaw through butter. That's the truth. I think Aljamain Sterling's been underrated and overlooked by a lot of people because he is like everyone like me. We've all got holes in our game. He's definitely got holes in his game, but there's certain positions where I think he is elite and maybe the best in the UFC. Like if he gets your back, best case scenario, you get to the end of the round. I think Sean O'Malley is a good fighter, but has been absolutely protected to get to this position that he's in. I think he's been saved from wrestlers for the most part. I think he lost to Purian, but he's here now. Of course, anyone with a 4-inch glove can knock anyone out, but I'm definitely betting on Sterling to get that one done. And maybe even quick, to be honest. Like he gets him down, gets his back finishing.
Yeah.
Well, look, we don't even know if this fight's going to happen now. It's been like absolutely covered in controversy. But as an Irishman, I've got to ask you about the other Irishman. If it happens, Conor Chandler, how's that going? And do you think it'll happen?
That's another one. Is it going to happen? I have no idea. Stylistically, I think Chandler's probably the best matchup for Conor McGregor. I know he's an Irishman. I've been his fan all the time, but there's no point lying. Like I don't see him like even against like an Arman Saryuki and these boys coming up in 55. Like I don't see McGregor. Yeah. I don't see McGregor beating them boys. No point in me lying. I don't. You can't live that lifestyle and beat them guys. Simple as that. You just can't. No amount of skill or talent's ever going to get you over the line against these boys who are training like that. Chandler, I think, is a good matchup. Chandler's I watched his fight there against Dustin Poirier and against Charles Oliveira. He literally turns out like he's in wrestling match, just gives it back. He stands, I guess, with his right hand. Like he gets so wound. He just comes for an absolute hair up. Like there's no thinking in what he does. I think he's just nuts altogether. But I do think the way he loads up, he's definitely there to be hit. And if McGregor was 50% of what he was, I think he could definitely bingo Chandler. But I probably would back him beat Michael Chandler. But I think it's probably one of the best matches for him anywhere near the top of that 55 divisions. That's full of phenomenal talents.
Absolutely.
So do you put that down to the fact that Conor would be just a bit of a sniper and would...
It's just so like Michael Chandler will literally stand in front of his right hand like this, wide open. He's actually just very settled as southpaw, straight backhand, if you're being honest. So I mean, one of the best southpaws in MMA history is there. Like so, I say if he's even 50% of what he was, I think he should at least catch Chandler. Definitely. Dustin Poirier said the same. He's like, I've fought the both of them, and like there's no comparison really in terms of skill. So if McGregor's even close to what he is, he says he stopped Chandler early. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Well, Caolan, we've had a pleasure chatting to you, mate. Thanks so much for your time and for being on the show. I think we don't go anywhere yet, but we are going to press stop. Caolan Loughran, thank you very much, mate.
Thank you.
Oh, wow, lads.